Hampshire's planning, actually inaugural planning and zoning commission meeting for Monday, May 24th. I could ask everyone to stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Secretary, gentlemen, if I could ask you for a roll call for attendance. How do I do that? Basically, just go from one end to the other if you want, call everyone's name.
Hank, be here. How's that? Okay, great.
All right, I'll start.
Okay.
Just call everyone's name out so they can actually respond. Arnold? Oh, wait. Aaron Neal?
Aaron. Oh, sorry, I read it wrong.
Aaron.
Aaron Neal.
Present.
Yes, sir. Larry.
It's Ravitch here.
Okay.
Larry.
And, yep, present. Right. And we do also have should have Mr. Rossetti and Mr. Wenzel on Teams.
Rossetti is here.
Okay.
Ask Mr. Wenzel if he's present.
Mr. Wetzel.
No, that's not him, that's Josh.
That's W.
All right, so Mr. Wetzel appears to be absent. We have a quorum. Thank you very much. And if I could ask everyone to review the minutes from our last meeting. And Mr. Schuster, how does that work?
Well, you haven't had it. This is your inaugural meeting.
Yeah. As soon as that sentence was done, I realized, do we have any prior minutes to actually review, officially speaking?
No.
I couldn't hear you.
Do we actually have any minutes to review, officially, legally speaking?
No, you would not.
Okay. Alrighty, in regards to our next two items, I would like to, Mr. Schuster, I entertain a motion to actually combine the first two items on our agenda into the same public.
That was my thought, Mr. Chairman, because the two properties are involved with the same proposed development. The public hearings could be combined. I'm sure Mr. Gazzola will speak to both items at the same time, and any questions that regard the development or adding the extra 10.5 acres could be addressed simultaneously, as long as you vote on them separately.
Okay. So I will entertain.
If that's, Mr. Gazzola, you have any thought on that?
No, Mark, I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay. All right. So I will entertain a motion to combine our first two agenda items into the same public hearing.
Okay, I'll make a motion to combine number 1 and number 2 in our new business.
I'll second that.
Aaron?
Yes.
Yep. All right, roll call, please. Then basically just go back to the names to get the full official vote. Hank?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Self. Aye. And it was
Mr. Rossetti.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yeah.
Aye.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mr. Gazzola, we are here to hear our first agenda item, public hearing regarding your petition for zoning amendment filed by yourself to amend the classification of certain properties being a portion of Hampshire Woods subdivision situated on the north side of US Highway 20 at Gaft Road from OM Office Manufacturing Zoning District to M2 General Industrial Zoning District. Mr. Gazzola.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back in front of you again. I might.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, it also involves item 2, which is to classify the additional property to be annexed. We
Sorry.
added, would also be classified in the M2 industrial zoning district. If you said that, I missed it.
All right, so I'll read off the second item as well then. Okay. Also, sorry, Mr. Gozzola, for that interruption. Item number 2 as well to be discussed, public hearing regarding petition for zoning amendment filed by ECR Acquisitions to classify certain properties, to wit, a 10.5 acre parcel adjacent to Hampshire Woods subdivision, designated the Leon property, situated on the north side of US Highway 20 in the currently M2 General Industrial Zoning District upon its annexation to the village. So I think we're done with items 1 and 2.
All right, one last thing. I see Mr. Gazzola. I can't see anyone else. The camera doesn't accommodate me. Is there anyone else who's going to testify in this matter? Anyone present to comment on this?
No, and Mark, nobody signed in to speak.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Gazzola, if you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this zoning matter will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
All right. Finally, public notice of this public hearing was published in the Daily Herald newspaper on May 3, 2021. A certificate of publication is on file with the village clerk. Mr. Gazzola, if you would, in your testimony, mention your posting and mailing to adjoining owners, please, and then make your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm Mike Gazzola. I'm a partner with ECR Acquisitions, and I'm a senior broker with Entree Commercial. I'm here this morning, or here this evening, to go through the petitions, the 2 petitions that we put together. We did put up notice signs back, I believe it was on the 10th of May, and we sent out, I think it was 6 notice letters to the surrounding property owners within 250 feet of the property. So all that was out, and the certificate cards were turned into the village clerk. This property is made up of 2 parcels, as you've heard. The first parcel is the Waynhammer Trust, just under 74 acres. The second parcel is the Leon Trust parcel, which is a little over 10. We are combining the 2 parcels to form what's called the Hampshire 90s Logistics Park. And I do have a video that was shown the other night. I'd like to show it here just to give you a real quick overview of what this is. So as we go through what the zoning is all about and the annexation, you'll have a much better sense of that. So if I can just stop for a second and you have Josh put this up, you can look at that.
Obviously, we lost our music.
If you could talk us through it, Mike.
Yeah, again, this was done for marketing purposes. This is obviously talking about the interchange and looking to the east. We flew this, and it shows you as you go down the highway, the 3 options, and it's end zones. One is a single building. It's just what could you max out on the site, which is a little over 1 million feet, a 3-building concept, and then a building with a couple of industrial buildings and a transfer station, which is freight. It's a freight transfer. Then we flip it around. We come back the other way with the amount of traffic that we all know is on I-90. The frontage that we have which is about 1,500 feet there. And then again, just trying to visualize, help prospect companies visualize what could go there, not what's planned. We have no specific prospects at this time, but what could ultimately be there. We also looked at Route 20 and the access that we have there by the water tower. The main access, as you see this, would be Gas Road. That's the natural point. There is another point a little further up at Higgins Road when that would be realigned in the future.
So that's the marketing piece that we've been using for about the last year and a half. And I apologize to the extent that this is something we wanted to do a year ago, but obviously COVID shut us all down and we put things on hold. However, we didn't stop marketing, and we didn't stop working on some of our preliminary engineering and just some planning. And that has continued to today. I might say too, this is the fourth time I'm in front of you for a very similar approach, and that was we did Pet Ag here a couple of years ago. We did BEK Transport, same, and then Mr. Montemayor, who we came in and rezoned also, and I can say we've also got a deal on one of his 2 lots now. So it's the same approach here, but on a much larger scale. Obviously, Pet Ag was a 15-acre site. Montemayor had 4 acres and 8 acres. BEK was 5 acres. This is an 85-acre site. Now, we can't say yet whether that's going to be a full site user, a half a site user, but what I can tell you is it's not going to be a 5-acre user. Development of this size doesn't warrant trying to put in infrastructure without some larger users. So our approach on the marketing side is strictly for that purpose. We're in front of you today asking for the M2 largely to give us the flexibility for the marketing and the users that we see out there. It is being market driven. The Amazon deal down at 47 and 90 is a good example of the activity and some of the things that we're seeing. So it gives us the marketing flexibility, and it gives us the ability to bring these companies in, because as they look at this, they are very skittish these days about things that have to be annexed and things that have to be zoned. So we've taken that approach the last few years and gotten that worked out with you all so that it's in place. And then we start looking at the development, and we come to you with specific plans, permits, all the things that engineering, all the things that's needed. So really your approval and ultimately the board is really just to get this to a zoning class that works and having flexibility and bringing in the Leon property, which is now in the county as agricultural and has been all the years, the 25 years I've worked on this land, it's been there. And we've known it. Now was the time, and they both trusts are fully on board with doing this. So we've got their support, and we decided to pull the trigger and get in here now so that we could get this work through. Any questions? I mean, this is again something we've done before together. It's just the nuances associated with something like this versus the others. So.
You covered it in broad strokes, but can you tell me what sorts of things would require an M2 that couldn't fit into an office and manufacturing element?
More of your logistics and your transportation uses, because we looked at that even across the street. So if I get, again, a freight transfer terminal, we'd have to come in at that point. That's what Dayton Freight had to do up the street. So knowing that, again, we did it for Pet Ag to set that 80 acres. We did it in the Hampshire woods to set that and have reaped the benefits. It's the same here. It's giving us as the developer, future owner, the ability to handle a wider range of use. Otherwise, if it was just the pure warehouse, yeah, Mark Schuster and I talked about that early on, and I asked that no, we expand this just as we've done before to cover those. And it is market driven. We're getting that request a lot.
Any further questions from anyone?
No, I'd like to make a statement, just I don't have a question. I would just like to thank Entree for the work that they have done in this community, the way you guys have come into the business now that you've explained, doing all this prep work prior to allowing for a larger market and allowing your firm to market our property, our community at a wider range. I've been on the planning commission to see some of those projects come to fruition. All of them have been successful. So this is just the first step in that. I just want to tell you thank you. So
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bill Rossetti. I have a
Yes.
question for Mr. Gazzola. Mr. Gazzola, I believe it was you that came to the planning commission a year and a half ago or so and talked about a prefab senior community. Is this the same site that we're talking about?
It is. It is the same site. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
it's not, it wasn't the Leone property at that time, but it was the Wayne Hummer Trust property. And we were working with Leone to add that in, and obviously that did not go forward, but it is the same parcel.
okay, so we're not going to have a manufacturing zoning district next to a residential area, correct?
No, not at all. No, there's no residential here now at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well,
The closest residential would be what, off of Higgins, the older subdivision there back on the north side of Higgins.
Yeah.
West of 20.
Correct.
as Phil brought up, I think at the time last year when that senior prefab residential development was proposed, we just didn't feel it was the right use for the property in the location that it was at. And this is, again, I believe this is a much better suited development proposal for that site. So,
Any further questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, let me understand this. We're going to vote on these individually, not as, even though we combined the two in the discussion.
Correct.
We're going to vote individually on each motion. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I got one more question. We're going to be talking about annexing 10.5 acres. Is the 73 acre parcel already annexed?
yes, sir, it is. It has been since about 2004, if I
Okay.
recall. Yes.
Thank you.
So just to maybe over clarify, you're requesting to annex that 10.5 acre and then combine it into a single parcel contiguously zoned.
The process actually, Brian, is we'll get the annexation done, the zoning done, and then when we see what development is needed, because then you understand your layout,
Yep.
there'll be a plat of consolidation. Technically, you don't have to do that. I mean, I've done building, but the issues we get into is if you get a building that's straddling two sites, we don't
It's
want
cleaner
to.
this way.
It's cleaner. And so ultimately, when you figure out what you're going to do, you will do that in combined sites. There'll be one PIN number, one tax bill, that whole thing.
Okay,
But that would come later. That just comes once we understand the user and or the development.
understood. Great. If there are no further questions or comments, I will entertain a motion to vote on our first agenda item, the petition for zoning amendment as filed by ECR Acquisitions to amend the classification of this certain property, portion of Hampshire Woods subdivision situated on the north side of US Highway 20 at Gast, from OM zoning to M2 zoning.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of such.
Seconded.
Larry,
Aye.
Aaron,
I,
okay,
Aye.
so, Mr. Rossetti?
Aye.
Okay, let's have it. And next, I will entertain a motion for the petition for zoning amendment as filed by ECR to classify the additional 10.5 acre parcel adjacent to the Hampshire Woods subdivision.
I'm cut out.
Sorry?
I don't think we really took it out.
Okay. Situated on the north side of US Highway 20 at Gast in the M2 zoning district upon its annexation to the village.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of item number 2 upon annexation to the village.
I'll second.
Hank?
Aye.
So, Mr. Rosetti?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Brian.
Oh,
No. Ryan doesn't vote.
Aaron Neal.
Aaron, sorry.
This is it.
Then Aaron Cole.
Okay. Mr. Schuster, did I incorrectly open the public hearing on this?
You're fine, Brian.
Okay.
I'm not sure what Mark's doing.
We can put it down.
Frozen. So do we have to vote to close the hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to close the current public hearing for the first 2 agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
No.
Yes, sir, please.
Larry?
Aye.
So, Hank?
Aye.
Mr. Rosetti?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
You seconded that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
We didn't, we could have welcomed the public here like 5 after 7. Did you want to write that in your notes there?
I had 7:01.
7. Good.
All right. I will now entertain a motion to open a new public hearing for our 3rd agenda item. Do I have to describe the agenda item as I'm? Okay.
You're doing such a great job.
Oh, I'm gonna go home and beat myself. All right, I will entertain a motion to open the 2nd public hearing regarding our petition for amendment of zoning regulations filed by the village zoning administrator to allow for off-street parking spaces to be located in front yards and in side yards adjoining a street in certain zoning districts, to which M1 restricted industrial, M2 general industrial, and M3 industrial zoning. Provided no such parking space shall be located within 15 feet of the front lot line or applicable side lots, as the case may be.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, before you take a vote on that, can I ask a favor?
Yes, sir.
I think we have a member of the public that would like to speak briefly tonight. Mr. Mayor, would you like to make some comments?
I just wanted to come tonight and thank you all for agreeing to serve. This is kind of a new thing. We combine the public planning, zoning and zoning. And we beg you guys all to serve, and you guys all chose to. I think that you guys are going to do some really great work. I've seen you work with the planning commission and both the zoning board. There's many years of experience combined with all of you guys. And I just want you to know that we're here to support what you're doing. And if there's ever any questions, don't feel free to pick up the phone and call, because I think that with the right direction, you guys are going to do good things. So if you guys have any questions for me about any of this, you guys already know what you're doing. You're seasoned veterans. So, I think with a few more years, Hank will get it, but I'm not.
If I'm around that long.
But that was it. So I just wanted to come and I would wait until public comment, but thank you. I brought my wife's on the park board, so she's got a park meeting tonight, so I had the 4-year-old in the back. You can hear her play this game, so I've gotten up a couple of times to say, come on, quiet down, so.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sir.
Now, Mr. Chairman, you have a motion on the table.
Okay, I was gonna say, do I have to go through that all again?
No, you did great. Oh, can you make him go through it again? Just like that.
All right,
15 feet.
yep, I will entertain a motion to
I have a
open a public hearing on motion on the table.
Brian, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Why are we asking for this?
Because Josh, why don't you speak to this? Josh has done the research on this.
Sure. So recently there's been at least three industrial potential developments that have asked why we don't allow parking in the front yard setbacks of industrial zoned properties. That's WR Meadows, And then more recently, Freight Union and Stanley here in town has a new development prospect that he's considering. I wouldn't say they complain, they just think that it's odd, you know, they say other communities don't have this type of restriction. It kind of restricts the layout of how they can put the building and the parking and everything on their property and the detention, all those requirements. So the staff looked into it and did find, as you can see in your packet, that of the 7 other communities in the nearby area reviewed, Hampshire is the only one that currently does not allow parking in the front setback at all. So this is just for your consideration to make us more competitive, I guess you could say in a sense.
And accommodate businesses.
And I'm sorry, the third business was again?
Stanley, here in town.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to return to the motion on the table. The opening of the public hearing on our third agenda item.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Seconded.
Item number 3, sorry.
Okay, roll call please.
Aaron,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
myself, Hank,
Aye.
Mr. Rosetti.
Aye.
Who am I forgetting?
Nope.
List is right there. I know.
Okay, now that public hearing is officially open, we've actually already heard a little bit of background on this. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, no one signed in to speak at the public hearing, just for the record.
Okay.
You want to close our public hearing and then discuss? Is that proper? No.
All sorts of calls this evening.
Yeah, should be, okay.
I will entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing on item number 3.
Second.
Roll call please, Mr. Coleman.
So, Larry,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Mr. Rosetti,
Aye.
Hank,
Aye.
You could just announce the vote, please, Mr. Chairman.
Ayes across the board. Ayes have it.
I vote 5-0.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on this? Any internal discussion?
Just if board members have any question and commissioners have questions.
Questions or comments on item number 3?
This is what we refer to as the text amendment, so it's generated by staff as a recommendation to the commission, which will then advise the vote.
What are does anybody know, we talked about this, the other communities in question not having this exact, but do they have similar as far as, there's deeper or no restrictions whatsoever?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So in the packet, I'll just read in here. So surveyed was Genoa, Finger Grove, Huntley, Marengo, Gilbert's, West Dundee, and Elburn. Marengo is the only one that has no restriction in the front yard setback. They can park right up to the road, it appears. The others were between 10 and 30 feet from the front lot line. And then their actual setbacks for the building also varied from 10 to, I would say, I think 45 feet was the largest that I found. Hampshire currently has a 40-foot building setback, does not allow any parking in the front yards. So all this would do would be to allow parking between the 40-foot setback and 15 feet setback, if you will, for parking.
Yeah. Well, what over at Keys Avenue, seeing that appears they park right up to the road.
Are you talking about
In the industrial, yeah.
Are you talking on the south side of Cottage?
Yes.
Yeah, RPS Products Building 1, as I'll call them, the westernmost of the two. The second RPS Products building, there's actually a 2.5-foot divider between their parking and Kai's.
Okay.
I was actually looking into that quite in depth. My understanding is those are most likely grandfathered in prior to the 1985 code, which is what we're all reading from.
Yeah.
So those buildings having pre-existed ordinances that we're now looking to amend, is my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Also, the word yard seems to imply grass. Does it matter what the surface is?
That's really just a zoning terminology. A front yard and side yard setback is just from the road, depending on which way it faces.
But it should be a hard surface though, right?
It doesn't have to be a hard surface, it could be grass.
Well, I believe what you're asking, is they have to park on a paved surface.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's in the front yard setback.
Okay. Have an ordinance against parking on grass.
Right,
Okay.
and you can't do that anywhere in the village in any zoning district, it's park on grass. But the term yard does not imply grass or anything else, it's just a front yard setback, side yard setback.
I think technically it's just from the front facade of the building on the
Right.
parcel forward.
I got it back.
Any further questions or comments? Mr. Rossetti?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The question I have, or one of the questions I have is, there was a reason years ago that the Village of Hampshire Zoning Board or Planning Commission or both restricted parking in the front yard. And I was just wondering, does anybody know what that is? And is it still a concern?
As far as staff goes, the answer is no. I don't know what that is, why that was. I believe it predates the 1985 code because all the buildings that we're talking about were built prior to that time. But it's, at this point, regardless of what the logic is, it would be outdated when it comes to practicality and our surrounding communities.
One more question is, how did we arrive at the 15-foot determination?
Mr. Ray, if you could elucidate a little further?
Yes, so in the packet, it shows what the parking setback, if you will, is in those other communities. And as I said, it ranged from 10 to 30, 10 to 20, yeah, 10 to 30 feet. And it seemed that, I didn't do any statistics on these 7 observations, but it seemed that 15 feet would be approximately in the middle.
And that accommodates the 3 properties that we're talking about.
Yes, right.
The primary reason I would say, Mr. Rossetti, is that it accommodates the 3 properties that are already either built or in the process of being built. And it's roughly average within the surrounding communities.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I could speak a little bit to the history. In 1985, the code was rewritten. There was no, that I recall, no specific discussion of this matter when it was implemented or brought forward. So I don't think there's any history to tell you about, Mr. Rossetti.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Schuster.
He realized he was logged in.
Elvis has left the room.
So am I understand then, because of the 40-foot setback with the building, if we make it much more than 15 feet, they've got an unusable strip code-wise, right? That's the problem.
Right now,
It's going greater than.
right now, the entire 40 feet is entirely unusable for them.
Right.
And this would allow them to use 35 feet of that for a driveway and parking. It would still have to be set back 15 feet for the parking, and you'd still have 35, I'm sorry, 25 feet.
Okay.
25, yeah, 25 feet.
Okay. Thank goodness for my laptop screen, as I was counting on my fingers there for a moment.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep you all alert.
Any further questions or comments? I will entertain a motion to approve our agenda item number 3, the amendments to the zoning regulations as filed by the village zoning administrator to adjust the parking setbacks in the M1 restricted, M2 general industrial, and M3 industrial zoning districts.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of item number 3 as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mr. Coleman.
So, aye. Mr. Rossetti?
Aye.
Hank?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
All right. 5 ayes, 0 nays. And for our next item, I will entertain a motion to authorize myself to provide a report to the Village Board of Trustees, the results of our meeting this evening for agenda items 1 through 3 above, with appropriate findings of fact and recommendation.
I'll make a motion to authorize our chairman to represent the combined boards on items 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mr. Philman. Aaron?
Aye.
Nick, aye. Mr. Rosetti,
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nays. No public comment, no old business, no announcements.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just take a minute, I would like to do two things. First of all, I'd like to echo what the mayor said and thank you all for agreeing to serve on this board. This is an important step for Hampshire in consolidating the two commissions so that we can expedite, not rush, but expedite the planning and zoning process within the village for development. I think what Mr. Gazzola did tonight is really the model that we'd like to see in the future. This is the second time he's been before the village board on the same project, simply because it was delayed. Next Thursday, we'll be hearing from Lennar Builders, the largest contractor in America for housing, who has purchased the Thames Farm property from Crown Development. And they plan to get started on that this summer. They'll be closing soon, so they'll be coming to the village board. The sort of informal process now is to come to the village board, tell them about the project, and then have it referred back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it was really a village board when I was brought in a year and a half ago to try and be business friendly, but also have a very well-planned and organized community. So it's important that we have a diverse base of residential, commercial, and industrial warehouse property. So that's something we'll be talking going forward, but it's really, this is an important step to consolidate these, and the same amount of consideration will be given. And, but it'll be a little less time for developers who come into the community with projects that we want to support. So I think that's very important. I also want to mention, one of the other things that we did not mention during this last text amendment is that Safe Built, you've heard that term before, that's our new building department, working out really well, working with our builders and developers and homeowners for permits. But the reason we're bringing text amendments to you occasionally, not long ago, we brought the signage for the truck stop area. So it's a pretty major undertaking to rewrite an entire code, but as you've noticed in your meetings, all of you for many years now, we seem to have the same variances over and over again. So staff and Safe Built, as Safe Built runs into these things, this was one of the ones that they were the first ones that were asked. When W.R. Meadows bought the building next door to them, they asked about this. They asked Safe Built first, what's required. Safe Built did what they call just a plan review and said, no, it's not permitted. There's a 40-foot setback. And then Safe Built came to me and said, or actually to Josh first, and said, this is somewhat onerous. It's not typical. So we'll be bringing things before you as text amendments one at a time like this, maybe even sometimes grouped within one section. Periodically over the first year of the contract with Safe Built until October. If at the end of a year we decide, or you decide as a group that you'd really like to see us rewrite the code, that's something that could be considered. But it would be a very expensive undertaking. We'd have to hire a firm like Safe Built to do it for us. But in the meantime, we're trying to address those most important concerns and bring them up as text amendments. One of the responsibilities or appointments as a village manager is that I am the village zoning officer. And the only authority that gives me is to bring a text amendment to you. That's really the only thing I can do is propose a text amendment rather than a petition. Okay, so I just kind of want to thank you for your service in the past and for what we're doing going forward. I think it's going to be a busy summer for all of us. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, that signage issue at the truck stop was ongoing for years. I don't know how many petitions we had for signs change over there.
I was only here a year and a half, and I got scolded a couple times for not bringing it up sooner. By the former chairman of one of our other former commissions.
Yeah.
Okay. I suppose I'll add a little item here. As far as any official request of mine, an agenda item in one of our next meetings, just for a general discussion amongst ourselves now that we're from the planning commission and the zoning board. Is that something that I can request during the meeting, or is that something that we can take offline?
That's a good question. Mr. Schuster, did you hear the question?
I heard Mr. Marock say there was an item he'd like to add to the next agenda, but I didn't catch what exactly that is.
If he would like to add something to the agenda, what's the process for that?
I'm sorry, what?
If Chairman Marock would like to put an item on a future agenda, what would be the process for getting that item on the agenda?
Just to let us know.
All right, will do.
As
Thank you.
chairman, he should, he certainly could make a request for items to be included.
Thank you.
Would that be for action or for discussion?
Just discussion.
Sure. General. Yeah. Just let me know and we'll put it on the agenda.
Thank you.
I think as a zoning administrator, I can do that. Actually, as the chairman of the commission, you can tell me to, or ask me to do that, either one.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Chairman, do we have a full board? We have all seats full.
Yes, we do.
We're missing one person.
We do have one absentee commissioner this evening, but yes, we do have a full, so,
It's not everything.
Tim Wetzel.
Okay. Okay, good. So we're full.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. I don't want to take all this money, it's actual money I get here.
Roll call, please, Mr. Billman.
Thank you.
Aye.
Hi, Mr. Rossetti.
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Larry?
Aye.
Five ayes, no noes.
Motion carries.
We like no, no.